This recording will begin Chapter 14 for the musculoskeletal system. So our first objective is to pronounce anatomic structures of the musculoskeletal system. So first we need to know a little bit about the anatomy of the musculoskeletal system, which consists of muscles, bones, bone marrow, joints, cartilage, tendons, ligaments, and bursa. The adult human skeleton contains 206 bones and more than 600 muscles. Joints form the union between bones and often allow for movement, although some do not. Most of the joints in the skeleton are freely moving and contain cartilage and bursa. So what is the function of this system? Well, it is movement, posture, joint stability, and heat production. The functions of the skeletal system are to provide a framework for the body, protect the soft body parts such as the brain, store calcium and support and protect bone marrow where blood cells are produced. The organs and structures of the musculoskeletal system work together to protect, support, and move the body. So here is the anatomic views. So the first one is the anterior view, and then the second picture on the right is of the posterior view, or from the back. So let's look at the bones. First, we're looking at bone structure. First, we have the periosteum, outermost layer of the bone made up of fibrous tissue. Compact bone, dense, hard layers of bone tissue that lie underneath the periosteum. Cancellous bone contains little spaces like a sponge and encased in the layers of compact bone, also called spongy bone. Endosteum, membranous lining of the hollow cavity of the bone. Diaphysis, shaft of the long bone. Epiphysis, or epiphyses for plural, end of each long bone. Bone marrow, material found in the cavities of bones. So within that bone marrow you have red marrow, thick blood-like material found in flat bones and the ends of long bones, location of blood cell formation, and then yellow marrow, soft fatty material found in the medullary cavity of long bones. And then we have the skeletal bones. First we have the maxilla, upper jawbone, mandible, lower jawbone. And if you think about it, only your mandible can move. When you speak, only your lower jawbone or mandible is moving. Vertebral column, made up of bones called vertebrae or vertebra, singular, through which the spinal cord runs. The vertebral column protects the spinal cord, supports the head, and provides points of attachment for ribs and muscles. Cervical vertebrae, which are C1 to C7. These are your first set of 7 bones forming the neck. Thoracic vertebrae, T1 through T12. Second set of 12 vertebrae. They articulate with the 12 pairs of ribs to form the outward curve of the spine. The lumbar vertebrae, L1 to L5. Third set of 5 larger vertebrae, which forms the inward curve of the spine. Sacrum, next 5 vertebrae, which fuse together to form a triangular bone positioned between the 2 hip bones, forming joints called the sacroiliac joints. And again, there's a good picture in your book, figure 14.2. They're not on the slides though. Coccyx, 4 vertebrae fuse together to form the tailbone. Lamina or laminae, for plural, part of the vertebral arch. Clavicle is your collarbone. Scapula is your shoulder blade. So these definitions are what we call layman's term, what non-medical people will call them. And then of course the term is the medical term that doctors, nurses, and other providers will use. And so within the scapula, which is your shoulder blade again, you have the acromion process, which is the extension of the scapula, which forms the superior point of the shoulder. Then you have the sternum, which is your breastbone. And at the end of that is your xiphoid process, so the lower portion of the sternum. Humerus is your upper arm bone. Then you have the ulna and the radius, which are your lower arm bones. So there's 2 bones in your lower arm. Olecranon process, projection of the proximal end of the ulna that forms the bony point of the elbow. Carpal bones are your wrist bones. Metacarpal bones are your hand bones, also called metacarpus. Phalanx or phalanges for plural are your fingers and your toe bones. And again, figure 14.3 and 14.3b. So this picture right here, great pictures that we're going over right now. So again, continuing with the skeletal bones, pelvis made up of 3 bones fused together, also called pelvic bones and hip bones. Within your pelvis you have the ischium, lower posterior portion of the pelvis on which one sits, ilium, upper wing-shaped part on each side of the pelvis, pubis, anterior portion of the pelvis, acetabulum, large socket of the pelvis for the head of the femur, upper leg bone, and then you have 2 lower leg bones, which are the tibia and fibula. The patella or patelli for plural are the kneecaps. Tarsal bones are your ankle bones. Calcaneus is your heel bone, and metatarsal bones are your foot bones. Then we have joints. I'll just leave it on this picture. Joints are also called articulations. They hold bones together and make movement possible. So we have joint, junction of 2 or more bones, which often allows for movement of these bones. Cartilage, firm connective tissue primarily found in joints. Articular cartilage covers the connecting surfaces of bones. Meniscus, crescent-shaped cartilage found in some joints, including the knee. Intervertebral disc, cartilaginous pad found between the vertebrae in the spine. Pubic symphysis, cartilaginous joint at which 2 pubic bones come together anteriorly at the midline. Synovia, fluid secreted by the synovial membrane and found in joint cavities, bursa, and around tendons. Bursa, or bursae for plural, fluid-filled sac that allows for easy movement of one part of a joint over another. Ligament, flexible, tough band of fibrous connective tissue that attaches one bone to another at a joint. Tendon, band of fibrous connective tissue that attaches muscle to bone. Aponeurosis, strong sheet of tissue that attaches at a tendon to attach muscles to bone. And then we have muscles. First we have skeletal muscles, attached to bones by tendons and make body movement possible. Skeletal muscles produce action by pulling and by working in pairs. They are also known as voluntary muscles because we have control over these muscles. Alternating dark and light bands create striations or stripes, also called striated muscles. Then we have smooth muscles located in internal organs such as the walls of blood vessels and the digestive tract. They are also known as involuntary muscles because they respond to impulses from the autonomic nerves and are not controlled voluntarily. So they're also called unstriated muscles. And lastly, we have cardiac muscles, which forms most of the wall of the heart. Its involuntary contraction produces a heartbeat, also called myocardium. And there's a good picture, figure 14.5a and b, which is the muscular system. And that will end this part of the recording.